this is what Joshua has sent in. And of course, it is an incredible Lego helicopter, wonderful piece of machinery right here. So this is going to be featuring in our story today. And ooh, this has been sent in from Kian. But Kian has not just sent in one, he has sent in two, because there is another one, and this is it right here. So look at that, Kian. Wow. Fearsome lion. Oh, I can see. Oh, Kian is actually watching. Oh, with the popcorn out, and his sister Kayla is there, and mum. So hello to all of you, and hello to Daniel as well, who's just joined us. So what story are we going to have now? Once upon a time, there was a great army of rabbits. Oh, they were wonderful rabbits, huge rabbits, thousands and thousands of rabbits. And they were very, very happy rabbits because they lived out in the plains and there was plenty of food. But one day, a lion, he came marching through the plains and he met the rabbits. And he had never seen a rabbit before. And the lion loved the rabbits. Thought they were sweet and cute and amusing. They made him laugh, and there was nothing that the lion loved to do more than to laugh. Oh, whenever he saw them nibbling, oh, he would roar out with laughter. He would fall on the ground. He was rolling around. His belly would ache because he was laughing so much. And he thought, you know something? I love these rabbits so much that I am going to be their king. You see, there was no such thing as a democracy then. But the rabbits, they didn't really mind. In fact, they thought it would be quite useful to have a great big lion around to protect them. And so they agreed. But one day, after many weeks and months had passed, the sun rose high in the sky and it became very, very hot. And the rabbits, they crowded under a tree, and oh, they were really, really sweaty, and all that fur was sticking to their bodies, and the lion was very uncomfortable too. But the sun kept getting hotter and hotter. It began to dry up all the lakes. It dried up all the rivers. It dried up everything. And of course, because there was no water, because there was no rain clouds and definitely no rain, soon none of the animals had any food, any water to drink. And because there was no water, there were no plants that could grow. All the plants began to wither, and soon everybody was in great danger. And the lion thought, I am the king of the rabbits. How am I going to take care of them? How am I going to protect them? And he began to pace up and down, but it became so hot that he too had to finally give up, and he retreated into his cave. And he began to snooze, because when you're hungry, you do feel a little bit tired. And as he was snoozing, he heard something. And he raced outside because it wasn't a sound that he was very familiar with. And he could not believe it. Up in the sky above him, well, what do you think there was? Yeah. There was a strange mechanical creature, a helicopter flying through the skies, and the lion was outraged. He pointed his paw up to the sky and he said, Oi, you're going to disturb all the sleeping rabbits. You're disturbing me, and if you've not got anything good, then you need to get away from here and leave us alone, because he was in a bit of a temper now. But it continued to make tons of noise, and the lion was so mad that he ran out of the cave and he started to chase after that helicopter. He ran and he ran, he bounded and he bounded as fast as he could, and whoosh, he leapt up into the sky, and out of his back there sprouted enormous wings, and he began to fly after that helicopter. And when he reached it, he jumped on top of it, and the helicopter, well, it began to tremble and shake, and then suddenly it began to tumble in the sky, and it started to fall. And the lion was delighted. He thought, yes, we're finally going to get a little bit of peace. But suddenly he saw everything begin to fall out of the helicopter, the cargo that it was carrying. And he couldn't believe it. It was carrots! Thousands and thousands of carrots! And he said, yes! And he began to roar with excitement. Yes, yes! And he roared to the rabbits, rabbits, wake up, wake up! And the rabbits, what's going on, King Lion? Get the carrots! And the rabbits, well, they hopped out from where they were sleeping, and suddenly it began to rain carrots. And the little rabbits, they looked up at their king with wonder. Oh, let me do the Disney effect. Oh, thank you, thank you. And they began to nibble and grab as many carrots as they could find. And do you know something? As soon as they did that, well, the sun was having such a good time watching all of this that the sun decided that, okay, I shall let them have their lives back. And the sun began to rise higher and higher, so it became cooler. The rain clouds gathered. It began to rain. And of course, they all lived happily ever after. Ta-da! So thank you very, very much to Kian for The Lion and the Rabbit. And also thank you very much to Joshua for his wonderful helicopter, which has inspired that little story. And hello to Lorna, hello to Law, who has joined us from La France. So very, very good to see you both. And I guess now I'm going to tell my main story for the evening. And this is a story that I heard from a wonderful storyteller based in Glasgow in Scotland. And his name is Gerry Durkin. And Gerry's a great storyteller, and I heard this story a long, long time ago, and I'm never really sure where it's from. And I think it's one of those stories that has lots of roots in different places. And it's a story about a king. And this king was a very good king. He loved his people, and he tried his hardest to rule with fairness and kindness. And so, because he was such a good king, somebody left him a gift. He woke up one morning, and there on the end of his bed there was a present. It was all wrapped up, and he had no idea how it had got there. And he went to the servants, and he said, "What is this? Who has brought me this gift?" Nobody had any idea. And so they said, "Well, you're going to have to open it." And so he did. He opened up that parcel, and there inside it there was a box. But no ordinary box. This box was made of glass, pure crystal glass. It was beautiful, and it was so clear that if you were to look through it from one side to the other, whoosh, it was as if there was nothing there at all. It was perfectly, perfectly clear. And the king thought, my goodness, what a box. But the box was even more special than that, because when you opened up the lid and you put your hand inside, whatever you asked for, you could pull out, and you would get it, anything you wanted. But of course, there was a catch. You see, whenever you took something out of the box, you had to put something back in. And the king, because he was a wise king, he knew that this box could also lead to an awful lot of trouble, and he didn't want to have to rely on it. So he decided that he would only use it when it was absolutely necessary. So he placed it in his room on a little wooden table, and there it sat for a long, long time. But after a couple of years, the king was called away on business. He had to go and help out the neighboring kingdom with some of their own problems. And so he jumped on his horse, and he and his council, off they went. And while the king was away, 3 robbers, and brothers they were, they decided that this was an opportunity to steal the glass box. They made their way over to the castle. They took great ropes and they threw them over the wall, and one of them hooked onto a turret, and they tugged it and it was tight, and they started to climb. They climbed up over the wall of the castle, and they started to look for the box. They hunted everywhere. They searched every single drawer and cupboard in the kitchen, under the table in the dining room. They searched behind the curtains. They looked in wardrobes, underneath beds, everywhere, and there was no sign of the glass box. And by now, The sun was going to be rising in just a short while, and they were frustrated and angry and impatient. And one of the brothers, in his frustration, he kicked over a little wooden table in the king's bedroom, and as it fell to the ground, he heard, ding-a-ling. Maybe this was it. And he began to feel on the ground, and he felt the box. He picked it up, and yes, it was definitely the glass box. And he called his brothers over and he says, look, I've got it. And they wrapped it up in a beautiful piece of cloth. They put it in a bag, went over to the ropes, they let themselves down, they jumped on their horses, and off they went. They rode into the middle of a deep forest, and they had built a little log cabin. And as soon as they entered the log cabin, they nailed themselves in so they would not be disturbed. And then they were ready. They had prepared the log cabin, so the only thing that was in it was a little wooden table. And the first brother, being the oldest, he took the glass box and he placed it on the table. Gently, he opened the lid and he put his hand inside and he wished for 10 gold coins. And when he pulled his hand out, there, sparkling in his hand, were the most beautiful, the biggest, the most glistening golden coins that he had ever seen. His eyes just about popped out of his head and he said, look, look, brothers, look. And the second brother, he couldn't wait. He shoved his brother out of the way. He plunged his hand inside and he said, I want a diamond as big as my head. And when he pulled out the diamond, the glow filled the entire cabin. It was enormous. It sparkled and twinkled and glistened. And the third brother, he thought, oh, wow, it's my turn. And he went forward, he placed his hand inside, and he asked for a sword made of the purest gold, with a handle encrusted with emeralds and sapphires and rubies and diamonds. And when he pulled out the sword, he could hardly breathe with excitement. It was magnificent. And as he was busy admiring the jewels on the handle, the first brother thought, I've only got 10 silly gold coins, and my brothers have got huge diamonds and an incredible sword. That's not right. So he pushed them out of the way and he reached his hand inside and he asked for, well, I'm going to leave that for you to imagine. If you could think of the thing that you wanted more than anything else in the world, if you had access to a box like this, what would you pull out? He thought of the most exquisite, the most precious, the most rare object he could imagine. He put his hand inside and he pulled it out. And the brothers, well, they took it in turns, each one reaching in, trying to outdo the other. Oh, the most precious, the most exotic, the finest, the thing that they had dreamed of since they were children. More and more and more. They were so excited and so busy thinking about what they could get that they forgot one important thing. You know, don't you? They forgot put something back in. But meanwhile, the king, who was away on his business, well, he had finished it all now and he was on his way back to the castle. And as soon as he arrived, he saw that the box was missing. Immediately, he sent word out and he organized for his armies to go out and find the box and bring it back. They rode across the plains, over the rivers, across mountains, further and further than many of them had ever been before. And one messenger, he found his way into the forest when suddenly in the distance he saw a tiny little chink of light. And as he got closer, he saw a little log cabin, and the light was streaming through the cracks in the wood panels. And he thought, the glass box must be in there. So he ran back to the king as fast as he could and he said, Majesty, I think I have found the glass box. And so the king redirected all the soldiers and they surrounded the log cabin. But inside, The brothers were still competing about who could bring out the finest, the best item possible. And around them, the log cabin was filled, piled high with columns of treasures, golds, jewels, rubies, chalices, swords, statues, pets, all kinds of things. But because they had forgotten to put anything back in, the little box, well, she kept on giving and kept on giving and giving and giving. But because she wasn't receiving anything, she grew weaker and weaker and weaker until she began to tremble and shake. But they never noticed. They kept on taking and taking and taking, and she kept on giving and giving until finally she couldn't give anymore, and the box shattered into 1,000 pieces. And the brothers, well, they were horrified, outraged and angry. They began to accuse each other. It's your fault. You should have remembered. Why were you taking too much? Did you not see the box trembling and shaking? And of course, they began to fight. They were punching and kicking and shoving and pushing each other. And the brothers, they knocked and bumped into these great pillars of treasure. And the columns, they began to sway. And then they tumbled on top of the brothers, crushing them underneath all that glistening weight. But the soldiers who had surrounded the little log cabin, they said, "Whoever is in there, come out now." But of course, nobody could come out. And so they bashed on the door. "Open the door!" Nobody opened the door. And so the soldiers began to take those panels and break the log cabin apart. And as they did so, all of that treasure began to spill out onto the forest floor, sparkling and twinkling. And when they went inside the cabin and they saw everything that the brothers had taken, and they found the brothers trapped underneath all of that gold, the messenger saw on that little wooden table there was just some pieces of broken glass, and he knew that this is what remained of the little box. He swept up the pieces into a little bag, and he took it back to the king. And as he handed it over, he knew that the king's heart would break, and it did. He took the little pieces of glass and he thought, what am I going to do now? And then he decided what he would do. He took the pieces to a glass blower, so somebody who makes objects out of glass, and he gave some instructions. And then he ordered the people in his kingdom to gather right in the center of the kingdom in 3 days' time. And in 3 days' time, they did. And the glass blower arrived with a package. And when the king opened the package, he unveiled a glass ball, a sphere. And he took that round ball and he placed it at the top of the entrance to the kingdom. And he said to the people gathered, he said, for everybody here, whenever you leave this kingdom and whenever you return to it, when you look at that glass sphere, that glass ball, I want you to remember the glass box. Our earth is just like that box. Our relationships are just like that box, and we are just like that box. We can take as much as we want out of it, but we must always remember to put something back in. And that is my story for you today. So I hope that you enjoyed the story. Hi to everybody who has joined us, and if you did miss a little bit of it, then of course you can always catch up and watch the video. I think it's there forever now, floating about in the universe. So thank you very, very much, and yes, please do share the story, and I shall hopefully see you all tomorrow. So thanks very much, and see you later. Okay, bye bye. And oh, thanks again to Joshua and Kian for the artwork. If you haven't sent yours in yet, please do, and we will try and create something magical with them tomorrow. All right, see you. Bye bye.